Well, hello. Very good evening to you and everybody around the world. This is round 3 of the SwiftX Motorsports here at Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. And ahead of us, we will have a sprint weekend around this beautiful circuit, which is a 3.8 mile with 27 corners. 16 of those will be to your left and 11 of those will be to your right. More right-hand corners on this track than any other circuit in the Formula 1 calendar. It's the second longest in distance, and it's very, very fast. You take your lap distance at about 80% full throttle, and there are 6 breathtaking events to be described with those heavy, heavy corners throughout these 27 of them. I am the Dean Biggles, and joining me once again back in the casting box is Mr. Ben. Good evening.
How are you doing, mate? It's good to see you. It's good to see you. It's good to be here. Saudi Arabia. It's, of course, a very, very new circuit as far as tracks go here on the calendar. Now, one thing very special about this circuit, about this weekend, is that, in fact, is a sprint weekend. So, as you may see, top left, we are running a short quali and then heading straight into a sprint as opposed to the full 3 qualifying sessions. Tell me, Dean, what's your take on sprint weekends? Are you a fan? A bit of an interesting challenge, I think.
I am kind of, because I'm not a fan of 100% Formula 1 races anyway, which we don't do, obviously, here at SwiftX. So, because it's too long. I mean, even the real F1, it's too long. I'm more of a fan of 50. So, when you go into sprints, of course, it's not so much of a massive difference, I'd have to say, because we do 50% races. But to the real F1, I do like the sprints. It just puts it a little bit more challenging. You've got multiple races then, and it breaks it up from sometimes, your regular exciting at the start, go for a snooze in the middle of the race, and then wake up again at the end. So that'd be interesting. This track as well, too, has a very high tire degradation. So I'm wondering how they're going to be panning out for the tires that they'll be choosing to start the race on. I would imagine probably more hards than mediums. Of course, during the qualifying, you're going to see only the soft tires.
Yeah, they're going to be full push on those softs. So despite the high degradation, everyone is going to be pushing as hard as they can to get as good of a time. To say, even in the early morning, I say we're reaching temperatures of above 35 degrees in terms of track surface temps. And that is only going to evolve and change as the track gets rubbered in, as more drivers head around and we head into the later stages of the day. But coming through, say final corner, first driver to head out and try and set a time down on the field, it's Kieran Stewart. Let's see how they do.
Welcome in the chat, everybody out there. Hello, hello. In the grandstands, let us know what you're sitting, what your favorite corner is. So do you like to track or not? Obviously, it's relatively new in the Formula 1 calendar. So these are one of those tracks that the drivers know like back of their hand, like Monte Carlo, Italy. Those tracks so you can just close your eyes and drive the car practically around. This one being very, very long, as I said, long straights, 27 corners, a lot of them. You wouldn't believe it, although they count a lot of those little kinks as corners, no doubt. Is this one of your tracks? Do you like this one, Ben?
I'm a little bit mixed when it comes to Jeddah. I can recognise its merits as a track. Of course, it presents a unique challenge not too dissimilar to tracks like Monaco. In fact, if you look at it from a surface level, it wouldn't be remiss to say that that track and this one share a lot of similarities. When you look at the profile, just how tight the margin for error is. But I don't know. I've always been a fan of sort of more open circuits, but I recognise that these tracks do present a unique challenge and something exciting to potentially get the fans a little bit more invested into what otherwise could be a little bit of a boring weekend, but I don't think we're going to see any boredom here. So I got Kieran Stewart coming down the final corner. So first driver to set out on the field. What time are we going to be seeing from the AlphaTauri here? Piloting it down the start-finish straight. Really, you can see as hard as they are pushing around the corner. And I think track limits is another thing that I wanted to touch on and say. As Kieran set to 128.7, we saw down the start-finish straight just how much they were cutting on that inside there. Do you think track limits are going to be a bit of a problem, Dean?
It's very, very possible. Once again, familiar with all these tracks in 2022 compared to last year's. And probably definitely it's a couple of those locations, but it's never been a notorious one for track limits that I'm aware of. Like Austria, of course, is one of those ones that you just rack up those penalties easy. I'd say probably turn 1, yeah. But aside from that, mate, if you push it too far for your track limits here, you're in the wall.
Yeah, I think drivers are a little bit, not spooked by that, but they certainly have their wits about them a bit more. As with a lot of other tracks, especially tracks like Paul Ricard, much more open design, if you push the track limits, if you go a little bit too far, you have a lot of open asphalt to catch yourself. But here, as you say, if you push the track limits too hard, that's the wall. That's damage. That's potentially you out of a race in a bad circumstance. But with that all being said, I want to talk about, as we top the timesheets with a 128.386, Luke Franklin, a new name to the grid.
Yes. Just looking at that one, that's fantastic. Just to go over as well, too, obviously we'll have some standings. And just to let everybody know, this is not a full qualifying session like we had the first 2 rounds. Because it's a sprint weekend, this is just a qualifying session of 18 minutes, I believe. We're already counting down to 12 or so. So just a regular short qualifying session. Still plenty of time. And we've got the sprint race. Can you explain the sprint race event for us out there this evening? And will be a nighttime twilight race? How's that panning out?
Yeah, so in terms of the sprint, of course, we have a reduced quali session, say running with short quali, as opposed to full Q1, Q2, and Q3. And then those quali positions are going to be used as start positions for the sprint. So it's essentially a cut down version of the full race. I believe it is 9 laps. So really is a sprint in every sense of the word. And then there's a few points on the line there as well for drivers, alongside where they will be getting, of course, the full points for the race on top of that. So, a unique challenge for the drivers. As I say, we've heard some polarizing opinions regarding the sprint weekend, but it does present something new to the drivers and the teams, because it is an opportunity to score points. You can maybe put it all into a quali type setup and bank some early points in the sprint, which means you're a little bit safer if you potentially make a mistake on the full race.
Points are good. I think we'll all agree with that one.
This just in, points are good.
You learn something new every day, don't you? And of course, it's a championship and it's a long season. So you want to get as many as you can. You're not going to, never win a championship in just a couple of races. Consistency is always the key. Many times you and I have seen, and I'm sure everybody out there as well, have seen people win championships and never won a race before.
Yeah, I say that consistency is ultimately what matters in no other respect than simply you need to rack up those points. It's not like the old system of quali and gaining points where you're top. I believe it was 6 finishes, and someone in the chat may be able to correct me on that. But I believe at one point for the Formula One World Championship, it was your top 6 results that actually counted points rather than the full calendar. Luckily, we've left that system behind because we want to reward consistency. A driver can have lightning in a bottle, so to speak, for a day or a couple of race weekends and be disproportionately boosted. But really, what separates the good drivers from the great ones is how they can not only put in a good performance on one race weekend, but they can keep that momentum through different challenges, different circumstances, and show themselves that they really are a master of all trades.
Master of trades, exactly. Bjorn goes up at a P3, the Haas driver that you're currently on board with. I was saying that keep an eye on that one. So that's a very good time. He doesn't get the fastest first sector at the moment goes to Will. And the fastest 2 sectors, Sector 2 and Sector 3, goes to Act. So that's quite interesting. Actually, you've got him as a Luke on your screen. So, yeah, I'll get it right there because I've got different names here on my telemetry. You'd think that they give us the same telemetry, wouldn't you, in the same boost casting box? But it is what it is.
A couple of issues with application. It happens to say when nobody is free of the technical gremlins, even at this production level. But that being said, the top 10 are currently split by 8/10 at the moment. Say Liam Markham in the pits right now and is currently 808 milliseconds behind the lead time of Luke Franklin. So despite all the chaos on track and everyone rocketing around to try and set their times, and as I say that, the gap between P1 and P10 has shrunk to 0.586 seconds, so just under 6/10. That being held P10 by Gustav Korsgaard. Of course, had a bit of a rocker last time round. A little bit of an interesting race, we'll say.
Yes, one of those races that you kind of would probably want to forget. A little bit of traffic at the moment that I'm just seeing from both of those Aston Martins, because green is good, green is go. Green is P1 and P2 provisionally at this point. Both of them on outlaps. A lot of people are out on the track, of course, trying to get as much as they possibly can because it's a short qualifying. Get the temperature up into the tyres. That's the key this season, isn't it? Tyre temperature.
Yeah,
that's what's been catching a lot of these drivers off.
It is all about those tyre temps, and managing those tyre temps, more importantly, is one thing to get them up to temperature. But as we see, this course is notorious for a lot of its fast sections, a lot of fast switchbacks, and really just commanding a lot of bravery from the drivers on track. But the side effect of that is your tyres, if you're not careful of them, or say you've got an unbalanced setup, maybe your fronts or your rears are going to get disproportionately hot, and that's going to ultimately mean you lose a ton of pace over the course of a lap, without you even realizing in some cases.
You guessed it. You're 100% right. This track also is, now, so we do have a lot of drivers on controllers. We do have a lot of drivers on wheels. I'd imagine this track is probably a little bit more difficult on controller, because you need to be very, very precise with those high-speed corners. Just a few degrees of angle steering. On a controller, that's a lot harder to do naturally than a wheel. So I want to see how the likes of like AJ, I know, for example, on a controller, how that will pan out for him. AJ, we know, had some pace last week. Always been in the wars lately. Didn't have a very good result the first time. Himself and Bjorn both retired, but they got the gentleman's agreement last week, didn't they? They finished, they got the car across the line. Maybe a little bit higher up where they wanted it to be. And I'm sure I want to see what AJ was, because AJ's pace was great coming back through the field last week. But once again, always seems to be, you know, involved in all the action. Of course, that's great. That's exciting. See what if he can do anything about it. And will this be one of those circuits that are kind of okay, as I mentioned, for controllers? Because once again, little tiny steering angles you need in this high speed.
I think what we're really going to see in terms of separating the wheel controllers, the wheel and controller players, sorry, is tire preservation. Now, you're right. A lot of these corners require, say, precision, or so to speak, setting your line that isn't just 100% angle and hoping for the best. But where we're going to see the difference is the wheel drivers, they'll be able to set their line no problem. They can hold that precision. It's a lot easier for them to hold those kinds of lines, whereas controller players, they can do it, but the flip side is they might struggle to hold that line, to say a little bit less consistent in holding that angle. And more importantly, if they overcook it, they will end up scrubbing their tires and producing a lot of extra wear, which I think will become a prominent issue in this circuit. I think a lot of drivers who are on controller might have to run in favor of a potential undercut, not by choice, by strategy, but because simply their controller disadvantage means that they have scrubbed a lot more life out of their tires than they otherwise would have on a wheel.
I never thought about that before. That's very, very interesting. Exactly, about the tire preservation. You are a driver, of course, so that's what helps. Or you have driven. You do drive sometimes.
Yeah.
That's
on
why
occasion.
I rely on your technical information. I'm just a crofty, my friend. Never been behind the wheel, or don't get me behind the wheel of these cars.
I keep my gears oiled.
Perhaps with AJ, and I'll give you a bit of a run. He's about to start his flying lap. He hasn't got a time in the board yet. He needs a time. And it's going to be heavily braking, a little bit of braking into the S's of turn 1 and turn 2. That's where you can invalidate. Hug up against the wall like your favorite grandma, as they would like to say. Now, did you get your, and this is a fantastic section. Once again, you can invalidate it through these S's here. High speed. Once again, maximum risk and maximum reward, of course, if you get it right. Another tricky section here. Once again, there's just a lot of S's, can invalidate there as well. And now this is going to be a great little hairpin on the other end of the course. You get on your brake sec, spot the apex, probably a little bit more from AJ. They get on the power there, get as close as you can to the walls. Hug it again, as much as possible. And then this is a tricky, tricky section here. Look at this, Mickey Mouse it through. Left and right, left and right. You want to go as straight as possible, of course, but you don't also want to invalidate. And then you get a little bit of a breather, and AJ's tapped the wall there, and that's what you're probably going to see from a few drivers, but it should be okay. He has wing damage, so he's probably have to get back in and fix it. Will he have enough time? Yeah, 3 minutes. Yeah, definitely have to box in this one. And he's looking like a bit of trouble here at the moment. Once again, AJ might be relying on a one-lap flyer.
Yeah, he's going to have to be all down to this last point. And again, a testament to the banker laps is that a lot of these drivers, they may not have times they're happy with. I mean, look at drivers like Cameron Sell is half a second down on the rest of the field on the lead time, which actually was changed to say Luca Tembrinka with a 128.347, just 38 milliseconds ahead of the rest of the field. And oh, there's a minor bug in the graphics there. But even drivers so like Cameron Sell, not potentially the happiest with their time, but they've still secured a P12 just by nature of having a lap to their name.
We spoke about this in the past, haven't we? Bankers, bankers, bankers. Get them in. Yep.
Exactly.
Put your deposit in the bank immediately first, and worry about your interest later. By the way, on the on the plane ride over, of course, from Swift Motorsports, providing us that. Thank you very much again. Did you study all your corner names?
Of course I did, he says very confidently.
There is none, actually. Just numbers. 27 of them. Not that I'm aware of there. If there are any, please let us know out there in the chat. But I'm not aware of it. They didn't give me the memo if there are corner names.
Yeah, so, well, we can always boil it down to say the Mickey Mouse, the chicane that you invalidate on, and the snaky wakey, to name a few, as we watch on with.
Slow corner as well. Really slow one down the other end, of course, because there's two of the really slow corners. Imar is also on the bubble, so the Ferrari, he needs to get a time in. AJ sitting in the pit lane. I don't think AJ's coming out. So that could very much be it, starting from the back of the grid for our sprint race. But the Ferrari is on a flyer.
I know it could be very close, although that being said, time is being obscured. They're essentially, you can see they're on their outlap now. It's going to be down to the second, I believe. So Emir taking a best sector 1, it looks like. So the sheets lighting up purple. So compared to their personal, looks like they are on a run right now.
He's got to be. He's lighting up the timing boards. Purple, purple. Well, save the best for last. Imar. Absolutely. I don't know if you guys are out there agreeing. If he can hook this one up, and he only has this corner, get it done. Now on the power. Hug the wall like your favorite grandma and be hugging across the line there, because this is going to be pole position for the Ferrari. What's it going to be? 128.1.
And what around the track it was. Unfortunately, we didn't catch all of it. Oh, you can see just how hard he was fully sending it, because he's gone into the runoff at turn 1. And I think it's just a sigh of relief from the Ferrari driver. I say, really showing his strength there. Of course, coming in with what looks like a little bit of confidence in their performance there, heading into the sprint. Say 30 seconds to go. Who are we going to see coming through as we clock in the final times here?
AJ did go out. Jacob's on the outlap. There's a few drivers on the outlap. There's a few drivers on the whole laps. We're not seeing anything special on the timing board. It's Imar. I will get it right. As you can see, there was a spin. I keep messing
It looks
up
like a
his
Red
name.
Bull.
I'm
Looks
the Biggles Butcher of name. Was it Red Bull?
The classic Biggles Butcher.
Yeah. I'm like Chuck Nice on the Star Talk radio with Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's always butchering people's names. That's where I get it from. AJ needs to get something in the bank, of course. Are they just saving the best for last? The Ferrari driver did. Just one lap. Nailed it.
Oh, but AJ looks like they've invalidated their run. The track is lit up in red, and that can only mean one thing.
Yep.
Despite their runnings, they are
start at the back.
They are back at the bottom of the grid. Really, who is left?
Named one of those corners. Which one is it out there? The Snaky Wakey corner.
The Snaky Wakey.
It's officially coined there by Benjamin.
I say, master of linguistics. What can I say? But here we go. Last few times
is on a maybe Cameron. Check out the driver in P3 now.
Oh, but Luke Franklin. Sorry to cut you off, mate, but I say Luke Franklin coming with a last-minute stormer, dethroning him here by a tenth. It's a 128.045. What a brilliant run there from the Aston driver, really making a strong debut. I think that's, if there's any driver who can make a statement, that is quite the statement to make, say, cementing that I'm a force to be reckoned with. Although we can't say yet for sure. I'd love to hear the people's predictions on how Luke is going to pan out. But of course, I say Luke has been the replacement for Joshua Hamilton. So in terms of the driver roster, in terms of silly season, it's a little bit unprecedented that we see mid-season drops. It's not really a regular occurrence, so you know it's a big deal. But Joshua Hamilton has been dropped in favour of Luke Franklin, and his statement of intent shows that maybe Aston Martin made the right decision. I'm sure Lawrence Stroll was pretty happy with that one.
Certainly at the moment. Silly season, of course. We'll have to talk to Mark Webber as who is Mark Webber managing at the moment. So,
that's a good question.
So where Oscar's going.
Yeah, that I was going to say. So we all know Mark Webber now as Oscar Piastri's manager, and we'll have to see how that one turns out. So it has been submitted to the Court of Contract Recognition. It has an official name, but it doesn't come to mind right now. But the Contract Recognitions Board has seen the appeals. But there we go. With that all being said, as a F2 shenanigans aside, here is your final qualifying standings. Luke Franklin coming in with a strong statement, a 128.045 in that Aston Martin, briefly surpassing Emir Durakovic with a 128.151. The quali chassis being dethroned, the Aston Martin with a surprise show of dominance. Third place, Noah Ilkorpi, another qualifying strong performer with a 128.258, and then following that you have the two Mercedes of Jasper ten Haken and Luca Tabringa in the two Mercedes cars, and you can see the rest of them reeling down on screen for you now. But tell me, Dean, tell me, how are you feeling heading into this sprint race?
Well, the top, I believe all the drivers, if I'm not mistaken, yes, the top 15 are separated by a second. It's going to give you a bit of an indication of how rumbling around this track. And passing, it's another one, isn't it? You can take some bold and brave side by side in some of these straights, but then again, you could be visiting that medical center if you do not get it correctly. Some of those classic overtakings into turn 1, turn 2, and you got the hairpin if you're bold and brave to try it around that one. And then you got the snaky wakey corners, of course, that you mentioned. And then the very final paperclip kind of corner. That's 27, that one. I think it might be 26, actually. It might count a little kink in the road as a corner, but that's one of those fantastic overtaking opportunities. If not, you're going to get that mighty DRS on the main straight, so get a good exit out of there.
Well, I think we're going to see...
reminds you of rain, doesn't it?
Yeah.
On some of those turns when you get a good exit out of...
100%. But yeah, I think we're going to see the majority of the moves happening on the start-finish straight. You've got to think there's 2 DRS zones before that. And there's always a little bit of DRS chicken when you have those 2 zones headed so close together. But with that all being said, we are away and we are in the race. And I'm not sure what's happening with my sound. There we go. Apologies for the issues.
It caught you off guard on that one. It doesn't matter because there we go. The Ferrari on the outside. You've got the Alpine on the inside. There's Jesper. There's Luke. And there's there's Imor right up into, well, no, he's hit the wall. He's hit the wall. It's crashed. There's a massive
and
crash.
It's a bunch of, and the entire field is practically gridlocked. It's front wings everywhere. It's carbon left, right, and center. There's drivers out the race. That's 3 drivers. Hitu Lapalainen and Thomas Harper going to be all out of the race. They've all sustained terminal damage. And just like that, that could be a red flag of the session.
Yes.
I think we could see seeing a red flag here.
I mean, obviously, it's going to be definitely, believe it or not, they haven't even called a safety car, but we'll wait for the stewards to give us some information because generally a rule of thumb is if there's a major accident, we will red flag it. We'll see. So far, it's green flag, so yeah, and marshals aren't worried about carbon fiber and cars all over the track at the moment. Merck's leading this one. Sorry, Merck, they call him Merck because this was on my screen. Luke is leading this one from both of the Mercedes of Jasper and Luke.
Despite all of that chaos, the front of the field has made a major breakaway, but Luke Franklin has completely sent it and really got away from the field. They're already 3 seconds up on the rest of the grid thus far. I think they purely just capitalized on the chaos behind them. You can see a little bit of unsettling around them. I say Mir looks like they had a bit of a shake, and that may have been what started the collision. We can't say for sure, but Luke, of course, being at the front of the grid, capitalized on all the chaos around them and really just sort of made away with it.
You got to capitalize on mistakes that happens. Front wing change for the Ferrari in the pit lane right now. They're sole remaining Ferrari or Frederick.
say Alex Hossa also going in. Peter Locke also heading in. I say a lot of the back runners are currently heading in for fresh wings and fixes. But it depends on the damage. If they got lucky enough to break a front wing, that's resolvable. But something like side pod damage or floor damage, you're in a lot more trouble.
Kieran making a run. Sorry to cut you off at P3. Around the outside of the Mercedes. This is side by side through here. Once again, I said, we ought to be very, very careful. There's not a lot. There is room, of course, but not at those speeds. Kieran does get the job done. He gets it on Luke. Makes his way up into P3. Does have one of those early penalties, but...
As I said, it looks like the move at least has been done. And I think they're just trying to maximize the pace, as we have a bit of a pop-up.
And also, we have Jacob making a run on the Red Bull. And there's a bit of a pack here behind Bjorn in P7. So Cameron, Jacob, Ryan, and I wonder if that's going to allow AJ to come back into play. He's done a fantastic job too from last place up to P11. But this is where Jacob and a Red Bull, and there's the Red Bull of Ryan, I think, going for a rump on the inside. The Haas doesn't make it stick, goes too wide, because it could even lose it out here to the McLaren. You can't go rest through here. If you can, trust me, you will be retired like the other three drivers.
But here we go. So it looks like Jacob is trying to eye up a move. Doesn't get it done as they're going very deep. Trying to get the switch back. Looks like they've got it. They've gone around Bjorn here. They've got to just hold the position heading into the Snakies. But looks like they've locked it in. And now they're chasing down Cameron.
This is great racing. Want to see this. Keep it out of the fence, guys. Fantastic. So Cameron's up to that P7. Jacob's under massive pressure, of course, there from the Haas. And the Haas is actually under massive pressure from Ryan. Both of the Williams could be looking at a run here and could get this one done. He has. Think about AJ, got the fastest lap before, so AJ's got some pace. He wants to get this Haas. Oh, the Haas is dropping a couple of places right now. I don't know, I'm quite sure if he has any damage, but he's struggling.
There you go, not sure what's happened. Yes, a Korsgaard going in with a pit retirement as well.
That could be most likely damage, I'd say. Remember, there was a lot of carbon fiber and stuff like that at the start, so... Front wing you can change, but you can't fix the body, rear wing, side pods, all that jazz. The duct tape will not hold.
Here you see we're hopping on with AJ here, so trying to keep up with Bjorn and Ryan, the two drivers ahead, so they're just under a second out. They have DRS still to play with, but they don't have nearly as much of a slipstream as they otherwise would have liked. They've already burned themselves down to 35% of their battery, and that's only going lower. They're pulling full overtake.
About to make a run. Sorry to cut you off there on Karen. So Luke has got that position back from Karen. They got it earlier, but then Karen's going to have that DRS. Also, William and Cameron have done an exchange. But yeah, I keep an eye on that battle, obviously, for currently at the moment. That's a train behind Noah in P5. That's the massive DRS trade that goes all the way back down to AJ. Another local yellow.
Yeah, not sure what's going on with those local yellows there. So popping in and out. I think say some drivers
AJ,
been a bit off pace. AJ, what's going on?
He's hit the wall. He's lost the front wing.
Lost a front wing. That's not going to be good for their hopes for the sprint. Luckily, there's less stakes on the sprint, but by no means does it mean you can throw it off as nothing. But it's a double overtake on the inside of Will Casson. Say both Jacob and Ryan. They both just absolutely send it. I think Will Casson went way too deep there. And both of them just capitalized perfectly on it.
And Bjorn can get this back as well, too, around the hairpin. That's been some fantastic overtaking here this evening. Bjorn's going to make a run for sure, absolutely. And that looks like taking candy for a baby, of course. That is that mighty DRS toe. And then again, goes around, comes around with that DRS. Still, we don't have to worry about Luke leading this race by 4.3 seconds at least. And then behind him is Jasper, and Jasper's got that little party of his teammate and Karen. So two of those DRS trains are forming here in the track for round 3.
Well, there's a little bit of a wiggle there from Bjorn as it comes out of the final corner. So pushing it a little too thing. I think they are going a little bit too deep, so you can tell there's a little bit of scrub on the tyres coming out of some of these corners. But it looks like Will Casson's got the DRS, and they're going to try and send it down the inside. Isn't quite going to work. Looks like they banged tyres a little bit as they head through turns 1 and 2 as AJ heads into the pits, replacing that front wing they lost. But these two are definitely going at it. Bjorn manages to secure that position for now, but I don't know if Will is going to be chasing the back down.
Bjorn has probably some technical issues at the moment in that Haas. So we'll see if we can get back in control of that vehicle. We'll sort that out as much as possible. See if Karen's going to make a run right now. That P3 position again. He's got a bit of time up his sleeve, 5 of 9. Laps into our first sprint race, of course. And there it is. You can see where is Karen going to line him up. I would say get a good exit. Maybe he's going to make a run in our final corner of 27.
I think he's playing a bit of a longer game here, actually. If I'm going to throw my hat in the ring on this one, they have the DRS train of the two of them. I think he's going to wait potentially a couple of laps down rather than make the move. Although I say that, he's gone deep. It's gone very deep down the inside, and Timburinka is immediately going to respond with the mild switchback, but they're both going to have the DRS. It's going to be a drag race right down to the start-finish line. Both of them giving absolutely no breath. I say they're clocking in 202 miles an hour as they come through the two corners 1 and 2. And I say Kieran, just like that, they are back down. I think they just went way too deep, and I think that was potentially a bad strategy call. They're about to go side by side nearly. Yeah. Gonna go for it, so you can tell a little bit of frustration from Kieran there that they didn't lock in the move. They're going a little bit too deep now. I think they're a bit in their own head. They need to pull themselves out of there. They have 3 laps to go, and it's still anyone's race. If they play this strategy right, use the 2 DRS zones at the end of the track to their advantage, they could potentially be in with a podium if they know what they're doing.
The Mercedes should be able to work together here. And what I have seen sometimes is obviously about that the ERS management as well too. So can have drivers that switch around. So driver behind doing all the defending can burn all the ERS. Once you run out of ERS, you swap it around, let the other driver then be the defender once they've charged their battery up, and vice versa. But I'm not quite sure if these drivers are planning on doing that. But it's also very risky, because you're going to have to lift somewhere. And Karen is definitely hunting them down for sure.
You're definitely going down on the chase. As I say, Wilkerson looks like they are trying to chase down Bjorn again. As I say, Bjorn managing to get themselves back into the car and back behind the wheel. But is it going to be too little too late? As I say, there's a half a second between them.
There's an accident with Cameron Ryan, I think.
Oh, it is
Ryan
about to be
Jacob.
in the path of the 2 oncoming drivers. They managed to just avoid it, kicking up some carbon on the way. But Jacob and Noah, I mean, a big accident there. Unfortunately, we didn't catch it fully, but what has gone on there? Did you manage to see from your POV in the box?
I just switched to it and keep an eye on Liam making a run now with Frederick. Liam's not. Liam's actually being passed because he's got no front wing, so he was a part of that or picked up some damage. You won't see a safety car, of course. I just realized because we're in a sprint race. That's the reason why they didn't call it out in the first lap. Jacob has damage, I believe. No, it doesn't actually. Yes, he's missing an end plate. There's a lot of damaged vehicles out here this evening. It's going to be a very high budget cost for some of these teams.
Yeah, but also for a lot of these drivers, if you have damage, you've got to make that judgment call, because with a short race like this, you can't really afford all that much penalty from the pits, as I say, because in sprint race, people usually expect there to not be a pit stop really at all. And a lot of these drivers are weighing up whether it's worth going in for that front wing replacement, especially if it's minor, whether it's even worth it, or whether it's even worth continuing to run the car versus saving the chassis and your resources for the upcoming race just after.
In at the moment, but he's out of battery for the AlphaTauri, but he wants a couple of Mercedes. That's for sure. He could get both of them. Very much possible, but they both get the DRS, of course, from the leading Mercedes of Jasper.
So got to play it right.
Luke at the moment is just wondering where is everybody. He's in Bahrain when we're still in Saudi Arabia. Way up the road, 5.3 seconds. But this is where the action is, of course, behind Jasper and P2, as well as that other little DRS party of Cameron and Ryan of the Red Bulls. They'll probably just line a stand for now. But I want to see if Karen's going to make a run here, because it's penultimate lap now.
He is coming down to the wire at this point. He knows he's running out of time. He knows he's running out of resource. But I think he can glean that from the Mercedes also pulling the recharge, that maybe they are as well.
Very different racing lines through there. AJ Jackson doesn't have to worry about his time penalties anymore. His blunt blast is probably just going to push like crazy to see if he can get past Alex. But you'll end up getting that one back with that penalty. It's Karen's time to do something about this. Where's he going to line up? Is it going to be through the snaky corners you mentioned?
Yeah, the snaky wakey coming right through.
Wakey.
You know, you can see a lot. The two Mercedes have packed up right close to each other and are a lot more within striking distance. But I think if Kieran can nail these two DRS zones, can slot themselves in between the two Mercedes, they can potentially do enough to stave them off. And at least on track is concerned, lock in a third place. But you've also got to consider the penalties that they were handed to them. Is he going to
move?
move?
A dummy, but didn't go for it there. But he's got multiple opportunities here. They've added ERS, for both of Kieran and Luke. That's why I was wondering if the Mercedes do a switcheroo. I don't think they had to worry about that at this point now. They do have a bit of lap traffic up the road. And some of these places are very hard to overtake, obviously, in the straights, but I'm not quite sure if that'll come into play. That could, let's say, for example, because if I'm not mistaken, I think it's Will, isn't it? It's traffic.
Yeah, so it could potentially be
a
bit of... Oh no, saying that is not traffic. That's Luke Franklin. That's the leader.
Apologies.
That's the race leader. So not to worry about that whatsoever. But here we go. So we've got a bit of a battle for fifth place going on right now. Ryan Yelty and Cameron Sell in a heated tussle between the two. Ryan is not giving him an inch to work with. Running the different lines, trying to keep out of the wake of that Red Bull. Trying to wait for the perfect opportunity. It's down to the last lap. They're side by side, heading through. Yelty's got the DRS. He's got the move done. Now he has to defend. How's he going to do it?
He has to defend. So Lee's going to be crossing the line right now. So that's Luke to get the race win for the sprint. I don't think Kieran can do anything about the other Luke. So, yeah, that'll be the same. Mercedes 2 and 3. Kieran will get that fourth. And what's going to happen with the rest of the battles there? We got the Red Bulls, of course. Are they going to defend? That's the Red Bull and the Alpine. The Williams. Oh, that'll cross the line and they'll stay in those positions.
And that is securing the position. And there you go. That is a P5 for Ryan. I'm sure they're feeling pretty good about it. As the last few drivers come to cross the line. I'm pretty sure at this point, the remaining drivers on the field are just happy they survived. I'm sure they're not complaining about the fact that they brought the car home, which is a lot better than can be said for some of the other drivers and a lot of high-running contenders, more importantly. That's definitely going to be hurting some championship prospects and some egos.
Exactly right. Ryan gets our driver of the day because he started in P16 and finishes in P5. Those results for us, please.
There we go. So, coming through to win the sprint race is Luke Franklin with a very good showing, a very strong showing. Didn't put a foot wrong. Ultimately wins the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix sprint. There we go. P2 and P3 is the two Mercedes of Jasper Ten Hag and Luke Tabrinka, and then Kieran Stewart, Ryan Yelty rounding up P4 and 5 in the AlphaTauri and the Williams, respectively. Other drivers, key drivers, Cameron Sell in the Red Bull, Bjorn de Boer in the Haas, Will Cassim in the Aston Martin, Joshua Bashford in the Alfa Romeo, and Noah rounding up P10 in the Alpine. And you can see some of the rest of the drivers down on screen. But what a race that was, honestly. One thing that has to be definitely caught me off guard was that whole turn one incident. That whole lap one. What happened? What even happened?
Crash. Exactly. Unfortunately, we didn't get it caught. The stream, we only have the one camera. You think that the Formula One Association should be able to afford a few more cameras than that, but yes, I think somebody was saying there in the chat that Imar got tapped from behind. Base, of course, on the street circuit. The walls take no prisoners. And then there was a multi-car pile-up, at least 5 cars, a couple of retirements, and then definitely some damage with a lot of those cars. Probably some of these drivers would have been actually driving around the track with that damage, nursing with some of their front wing end plates missing because, as you mentioned, such a short race, you don't want to be gambling too much on a pit stop.
Yeah, the pit stop isn't really, in that circumstance, it's you don't have enough time. You simply don't have enough on-track time to make up the deficit from a wing replacement or a tire switch. You simply just can't make it work. So unless it's absolutely necessary to you finishing the race, if you even choose to finish the race, then otherwise you avoid that pit lane at more or less all costs. But yeah, we saw, I think it was 6 drivers in the end, either being collected or being damaged as a result of that incident. And it really has put a dent to say you had drivers like Emir, say, was caught in the crossfire. We had a few more DNFs as well to boot, to say people like Kuzdef Korsgaard, who retired out of choice, opting to save the car. But yeah, 5 retirements from a 20-driver grid in the sprint race. Do you think we're going to see that same carnage in the actual, like the full-length race, or that we will potentially see it calm down, that we'll see some drivers play a little bit more safe after what happened there?
Very possible. We're about to find out.
But we are just heading out here. But here we go. Oh, bear with us 1 second.
So in the chat there, thank you very much. That's these fantastic effects that we have. Resby is what you're going to get here, and expect a lot more of it here at Swift. This is a SwiftX series, of course. Our fantastic producer, aka caster of Benjamin, handling all that behind the scenes. And Jordan Fahama said they did a good job. Make sure you hit
it's
like
a big
and
team
subscribe.
effort.
There you go.
It's a big team effort. That's your nod to subscribers. We're trying to push the boundaries here. So custom, everything you say is custom. We put a lot of thought into it. Say there's a whole team that you can thank for the production quality and just the level of effort they're putting in. It's unmatched, I think. It's definitely one of the highest production leagues out there right now. But we are going to be taking a short break while we process everything. Say we've got get the results, to say drivers have an opportunity to cool down ahead of the race. Any passing words before we go and get ourselves a little bit of water and get ourselves prepared for hopefully a not too insane, but still insane, race ahead of the full length race?
You're right, Ben. I think the key word is, before we go to the break, cool down. Exactly.
You can already see it's starting to affect me.
You want to cool down now? Cool down with some rosewater champagne later on the podium if you get there. Be back.
But we will see you all back here in due time, folks. Don't go anywhere. We've got some exciting racing ahead of us and some exciting things to talk about. So we will see you very shortly. Well, hello everyone, we are back here in Jeddah after an insane qualifying, a crazy sprint. Everyone's patched up, ready to go, cars are fixed, school is out, but the drivers are in for round 3 here in Saudi Arabia. We've got some exciting racing for you tonight, folks. We've got some interesting talking points here at the Jeddah Corniche circuit. Pretty crazy track, so say 27 corners, 16 rights, 11 lefts, but you knew that already. Interestingly though, we have a few grid drops to talk about. So we have a 10 place grid drop for, say, Jacob Scholten, for Noah Ilakopi, and as well as that we have a 3 grid drop for Cameron and a 10 grid drop for Will Casson. So all for varying reasons, but I'm of course joined in the commentary box by none other than Dean Biggles. How are you, my friend?
Looking forward to this one. You said, yeah, school's back in. So the first round of exams, hopefully they've studied their mistakes and where they can obviously see if they can impress the teachers, aka team bosses, and get some more points for the team and the drivers, of course, because this is round 3 of the championship. Lots of rounds to go. Some eager moves, but it was a sprint race, of course, and the sprint races also bring out the best and worst in drivers per se. Massive accident at the start there. 3 cars were DNF'd. We do have a rule out there, so it would be red flagged if there was 5 cars. There was 5 cars in the accident, but of course only 3 of them were DNF'd, so therefore The other one's got a chance to go back to the pit lane and get some repairs. A lot of carbon fiber was everywhere in that first race, mate. What do you think we're going to see for this next one?
Well, I hope the drivers learn from their mistakes from that heavy dusting of carbon fiber around the early corners of the track. As everyone's patched up and ready to go. I think they've cooled their jets a little bit. I think the heated situation of the sprint being a new challenge for the drivers, I think that caught them a little bit off guard, but regardless, we are moving on. So as we get to the grid itself, everyone is set up. Remember, there is no formation lap, so these drivers are going to be on colds. They're going to be on cold tyres, but with that being said, it is lights out and we are immediately away. No holds barred. To say it's a big swing out wide for AJ Jackson trying to get the move in early. Luke Kamakan has got the run heading out of turn 2 and heading through. It looks like they're going to immediately lock.
I think that's Cameron that's in the fence. We had Noah just completely stopped on the grid as well. Stalled. Or something happened to that car. That's down to P20 with that grid place penalty as well, but so far so good. So Red Bull had a little bit of a spin. Red Bull under pressure there from Will. That's back for P10 and P11. We also have a battle up the front there. P4, of course. There's Luke. There's Kieran. There's the other Luke. And Jasper's in the lead of this race.
And they're doing mighty fine as far as battles goes. To say Will Casson hunting around the inside as they trying to fight their way back up the grid after, say, getting a 10-place grid drop. From what I'm reporting in the steward's box is a early ready up in the previous race, so that was to be for the sprint. But everyone is immediately trying to make the most of the early chaos of the race before DRS kicks in. So we've got 25 laps to this race, as it's a shorter distance than the full Monty.
Head on back down to Liam and Thomas at P13, all behind Imor. It's Jacob in P15. Now, where have we seen this before? Yes, only just 45 minutes ago we saw this in the sprint race. Now we see it again. Jacob putting massive pressure on Liam. Liam's putting a bit of pressure there on Thomas. You got the Ferrari driver of Imor a little bit up the road, and that could be an overtake, I'd say, from E2. We haven't spoken too much about E2, haven't we, before in the sprint race, but he's back, as well as the Ferrari driver getting it done on the Red Bull. And looks like Liam's around. Liam is around and maybe into the fence. Oh, no, they're in the pit lane. They all got damage to repair. That's early.
Yes, early damage there. It's interesting because you wouldn't want to bin it too early. But so they started on the hard compound and looks like they're frozen up a little bit in the pit lane. 7 penalties that early on. But so we go, they're onto the medium compound. So I think they're trying to get their compound in early.
That is interesting. Now, I wonder what happened. Did we get the driver that was stalled on the grid completely? I didn't see the flag guy waving his flag to say go, go, go. But anyway, it is what it is. Kieran now, keeping them all honest at the front here. So nobody's really run away out of the DRS just yet. Cause Guard probably right on the limit, but no, that is a DRS train from P1 all the way down currently to P10. And if you guys are just new to Formula One, of course, the DRS is almighty and powerful. You have to be within 1 second. It should be activated next lap. And it gives you about 15 kilometers an hour of extra speed.
Yeah, and that speed is all important, especially at a track like this, considering just how much of it is arguably a straightaway. So with these cars, they are majority drag limited, and those extra 10-15 miles an hour, say about 20 kilometers, depending on your setup, it makes all the difference. Now, I expect in terms of setup, a lot of these drivers have gone for relatively low downforce. They want to capitalize as much as they can on the straights and get as much of a run, especially considering DRS trains are all powerful on this circuit. You've got 2 DRS zones immediately, one after the other, as we come up to the start-finish straight. So strategic plays and really chances for some overtakes there.
Second longest track in the Formula 1 calendar outside of Spa, of course, was about 7 kilometers. This track is about 6 kilometers. The McLaren is putting pressure on AJ. AJ's up 3. Will's up 7 in P9. 7 positions gained for Imor and 7 positions gained for Jacob in the McLaren in P13. So lots of gainers there. Of course, everybody else has made those pit stops. Are down the bottom at the moment, but everybody has to make a pit stop. So get it done early, get it done late. Doesn't matter as long as you get it done one time.
And that is really what matters. So you've got to get it all done. Say, looking at pit compound, at tyre compounds, though, we've got some interesting choices. A bit of a spectrum up and down the field. So we have a lot of drivers who have majority gone for the mediums. I think we're going to see a one-stop strategy depending on how they play it. But we've also got drivers like Amir who are on the softs, starting on the softs, potentially banking on the early pace and making the most of the DRS train. maybe even going for a two-stopper. Depends on if we have anything like a safety car
Not a
kicking
bad
in this
strategy,
race.
but I'll tell you one thing, even though those red stripe tyres look good on a red stripe Ferrari, he has one little problem, an end plate missing. A little bit of damage to his front wings, probably not the only one, but because those walls, you know, they take absolutely no prisoner. But Luke might be taking a prisoner of Jasper for the lead of this race. Does he go around the outside? Gets the inside line. Now, we've seen what happens when a couple of drivers go through here, but they're still going to battle it out. Jasper's going to defend like mad here. Luke wants this P1. In the background is Kieran. There's the other Luke. Ryan and AJ are in P5 and P6, working together, strategists to make sure of the Williams. But here it is. It's definitely a challenge for the lead. This is where the DRS comes into all the play. Yeah,
DRS officially now being enabled here, and I think we've immediately seen a bit of an effect to say Will Casson hopping up to 8th position in that Aston Martin. And say the Aston Martins have really seemed to have found their form this round. And say they've got, despite a 10-place grid drop, Will is still up in P8, and then Luke Franklin up in P2 after a commanding performance in qualifying and the sprint, and doesn't want to let that lead go without a fight. They're staying on the tail of Jasper ten Hag, and Kieran also trying to claw up that distance, but I think they've got to be careful of burning their resources too early. We have 25 laps.
It's so fast and furious, this track. It's brilliant. Look at the speed, the sparks in the nighttime, the twilight. In Saudi Arabia, you got your votes out there. Well, Karen at the moment is trying to bring this onto Luke. Now, I guess about 20-something% of you voted for Kieran to get this race win. I think majority of you voted for Luke. Well, I think Karen wants to turn those statistics upside down. But remember, we have 25 laps. We're 4 down. Another poll's up at the moment. Will Bjorn de Boer finish higher than P10? Get your votes in. And Luke has got him. Luke has got Jasper into turn 1. Job done with the DRS. See how that pans out later. And the Ferrari driver's gone in the pit lane early, I guess. He's burnt through those softs, and he's got damage in the front wing. See if he gets it fixed.
Yeah, so the double DRS zone on this track is all powerful, but it looks like, I'm not sure what's happened on track there, so I think it's a bit of a pit retirement from Shelton there for the McLaren.
By the way, from the Ferrari garage, he did not fix his front wings, about 11% damage, so he's going to be seeing a problem all the way around, but he has the pace probably to make up that little bit of a difference.
Yeah, of course, drivers chasing down to say big winners and losers right about now. So we have, say, Cameron all the way down in P19, and I did want to make a special note of them because considering this is their last race before we are having another driver swap heading into the next one. So not a way you want to be going out there. So now up to P18 now following Shelton's retirement, but still you want to bring that up considering they're 10 places down on their start position.
Well, it depends if we get a $21, $23 million contract to buy him out. It's going to be the key, isn't it? Karen now, he's going to worry about his $23 million contract if he can get past Jasper. And that's fantastic that he's close. Karen, you remember he was battling tooth and nail in the first feature sprint race. Now he wants this one. He wants to get past Jasper's always in the right place at the right time. Looks like Bjorn might be getting an overtake done. Oh boy, Will got an overtake done on Bjorn. Bjorn is inside that top 10, so if you voted for if Bjorn's going to finish inside the top 10, you might be okay right now. Luke still leading this race in the Aston Martin from Jasper.
Hopping on board with Kieran right now, just seeing how they handle some of the faster corners. They're dealing with the cars ahead. You can see them just feathering the throttle a little bit too much on the brakes there. I think that cost them a little bit of time, but looks like they've otherwise made it work. So with those corners, that little complex, it's all about conserving your momentum. It's all about, if you can avoid braking, do it. So you lift, you coast, you hop off the throttle, even if it's to about 10%. It's all about conserving that speed because that puts you in good stead for the second sector.
We'll see if there's going to be a teammate overtake as well, too, for the Williams of AJ. G'day, Mel out there. Mel is a future young caster, my friend. So, yeah, when we're in retirement, he'll be replacing us some point in the future. Will there be a switcheroo between the Williams? I think it might be, yeah. Ryan is going to let AJ through. Good tactics there. Williams need to get a crucial amount of points. As teamwork is key to winning in constructors. And Kieran now may be thinking about it. He's obviously the only man at the moment in the AlphaTauri because his teammate of Peter is down in P... Well, now 13 because he just got overtaken by Noah.
Yeah, that AlphaTauri suit is going to have to pull their socks up if they want to score some consistent points for the team. But I think you say it's a good play there between Ryan and AJ. definitely some good things to see. Is the teammates actually working?
And the inside contact, maybe around the outside with Mercedes. This is more exciting than perhaps the final for last season in 2021 for Formula One. We're not going to worry about Michael Massey's safety car coming out just yet, Michael. No, Mikey, no. Karen wants to get past. Jasper's making it so difficult. Ima, even with that damage, the Ferrari driver still sets the fastest lap.
As what is showing that is yeah, Kieran is not giving them an inch. And the two Mercedes drivers look like they are working together. They flanked them either side. I think Jasper's doing the best as they can to keep them behind so that Luke Tembrinka is also able to put the pressure on from the rear, and it's leaving Kieran in a very precarious situation. Do they focus on the attack and compromise themselves to Tembrinka behind them, or do they play defensively and fall away? It's some good team play from the Mercedes as well as the Williams drivers, with Ryan letting AJ by earlier.
It's brilliant. And guess what? That is a DRS train from 1 all the way down to P10. Oh, sorry, my apologies. 1 to 4, and then AJ's got the DRS train behind him, and they're tagging each other along. As you mentioned, teamwork is teamwork. Peter's trying to get past Noah. Perhaps he might be making a run right now. P13, P12, Noah. They did the switcheroo before. The Alpha Tauri needs to make a fashion statement right now on the Alpine, and I think he definitely will down the back straight. Should be no problems once you get that letterbox open. The letterbox will give you 15 kilometers an hour. No, good defense there, actually, from Noah. Noah shut the door on him.
But wait there just a second. You've got to think, you've got the second DRS zone coming up. He stayed behind, but doesn't look like either of them are running it. But even so, Lot has got the overspeed on that Alpine. They're going to try and hold the outside. Noah's doing very well to defend his contact between the two's wings and heading through the first couple corners. See Lot getting very wide, very squirrely on the throttle. I think they're just applying that a little bit too early and unsettling the car, and that's something you've got to avoid.
As well as those big nasty walls that are right next to you as well. One little mistake and front wing gone, car gone. So far, only one driver has retired. That's Jacob in the pit lane. Might have been some damage that Jacob had that could not be fixed. For the McLaren, he will not get a bear hug from the McLaren team boss anytime soon and break a couple of ribs, perhaps, like Lando Norris did. But Karen still can't get past Jasper. He's trying tooth and nail. It's bringing in the other Luke in P4, the Mercedes, as you mentioned. The Mercedes, are they working together here? Are they going to force this AlphaTauri into a sandwich, a Mercedes sandwich? I'll tell you what, I'll take a Mercedes sandwich if you give me one of those cars.
Yeah, well, Kieran is trying to, looks like, get the breakaway by really holding it on Jasper's tail. But given that Jasper also has DRS to Franklin, it's not able to work. He's trying to get that gap and is somewhat doing it to Tembrinka, but can't make it work. You can see he's throwing a bit of a dummy.
Will go back to P7 now. Will's thinking about a couple of these.
Oh, and it's contact.
And there was a bit of contact. Will that bring the other sole remaining McLaren into play? And look at that, Bjorn's in here, Cosgaard's in here. All familiar names from the first couple of races. Great racing, great action. What else would you want to be doing? This is SwiftX.
And just like that, the band is back together. So we've got a massive train forming as we come through the tail end of the first sector. You see tire wear is really coming on strong. So we're just 8 laps in, and the mediums are already in that 40% range. But you see Hostler throwing a little bit of a dummy there, trying to spook Casson into a bit of a defensive swing. Not quite going to work. So he's going to stay steeled. Done well to make it up to P7. And I don't think he wants that momentum to stop anytime soon.
Just to let everybody out there, if you're new to Formula One, they have to box one time. Box being pits lane. A couple of those drivers have done that. The drivers from P14 down have already visited pit lane. Everybody else has to. Tires will start wearing off the cliff at the moment, getting around 40s, 30s to 40s on the tire wear. It means you're going to go a little bit slower. When are you going to get out, in and out? The engineers are probably calculating time. The Williams, unfortunately, together, AJ and Ryan, so they need to communicate time, and they are doing a bit of a switcheroo in those position changes, as you just saw on the fantastic helicopter camera. They can't go in at the same time. That'll be a double stack. There's only one pit box, and that looked like the course guard got very swirly. There it goes in, Will, for the Aston Martin. And we just had a rumor in the paddock that Cameron is retiring to spend more time with his family. Well, that's a great thing to do, of course. Well, you can always come back and race, but your family is your family.
Oh, and it's a spin.
Goes, AJ, I believe. He kept it at the
that's
fence.
AJ. He manages to keep it together and in the right direction, but still, big scary moment there. Just too much on the throttle, kicks the back out, as we've seen so many drivers do up until this point. But AJ is the only one who's properly lost it, hasn't managed to catch it, and that is a bit of an ego damage there.
I honestly think because AJ's on a controller, and I know I'll probably talk to AJ after this race when I run down to the Williams garage and find out how difficult it is. Remember those little tweaks we're talking about, the steering wheel is hard when you don't have a wheel. You've got a controller, a tiny little adjustment. It's been a very difficult track for AJ, but the pace is always there with the Canadian driver.
Yeah, he's just pushing as hard as he can. We saw that last time back in Bahrain as well, so they are pushing as hard as they can to make up as much positions. They've typically been a very aggressive driver, and I think that's why Ryan initially yielded the ground to their teammate. But as we saw when the switcheroo back, I don't think it's a communication thing. I think it's just they are pushing as hard as they can. Ultimately, that cost them here.
Now, AJ could be back on his teammate. No, it's not actually. It's Korsgaard. That's the Red Bull.
But we see
AJ
here...
Korsgaard, and they're boxing. So Luke's boxing. The other Luke's boxing. Both of Luke's is boxing. I thought it was going to be who's going to jump first into the pit lane and see what's going to happen, because the traffic is going to be the key here, where you can come out. It's about a 20-second pit stop in and out. It is 80 kilometers an hour, so it should be one of the quickest pit stops in Formula 1. And there will be a little bit of there's 5 drivers in the pit lane. Ted's not there. We've fired Ted. We couldn't afford Ted, actually. No, we didn't need Ted. Ted's okay. We'll have Natalie instead. But anyway... Kieran's now in the lead of this race. Luke stayed out. Dawn is up in a P3, so if you guys have got that vote in there, whether he'll finish in the top 10, 80% of you said yes, but he still has to box.
And just
Who
like
is
that...
in the net lead of this race once we got everything all calculated?
Yeah, so far, in terms of net lead, it looks like Luke Franklin continues to hold. I think everyone is following their lead. We saw 5-6 drivers about taking it into the pit lane. And we're coming to that transition window for the medium runners, I believe, as we come to lap 11. And the high tire wear, the high degradation, as we get a local yellow, not sure what's going on. Looks like a Red Bull.
Korsgaard, yeah. He's in the fence. He's managed to back it up and get back out. That was a pretty good turning circle there at the moment. It wasn't an Austin Powers like trying to turn around in a tunnel. He got it done. Korsgaard, but back on track. Not sure if he got a little tiny bit of damage. Just put 1%. Forget about it. It's nothing.
And there you go. As we see here, say Kieran and Luke Temporinka coming into the pits to say that's transition window for the medium runners, as they have to switch to the hards unless they get some major degradation.
Where's the Aston Martin? Aston Martin coming down the final corner, down the main straight. He's going to be either passing everybody in the pit lane. They are exiting the pit lane right now. Can you into this race? I'm not quite sure it's going to be enough here. They're exiting. It's going to be close into turn 1. Has he done it? Oh, look at this. The Mercedes has come out just ahead of him. There's the 2 Lukes. So has this paid off or not? He's got the temperature in his tires. He's going to go for it for sure. He's got to stick it. He's got the temperature in the tires. He has. The Aston Martin has taken it. That's worked brilliantly. The undercut going into the pit lane early. He's got it done, and he's in the net lead of this race. Actually, Kieran is in the net lead of this race. My apologies. Kieran is in the net lead. I forgot about that. But anyway, that was the battle between the Lukes.
Yeah, and then what a showing that was. It's all about that temperature. So he had the early track position, but I think, I say, maybe it was a slow pit stop, or just simply the timings didn't work out. They lost too much time, where they had maybe more life in those mediums, just have one more lap in it. The undercut not quite working, but they have the temps, they have the speed, and immediately you say Luke is not content with passing Temporinka. They're immediately catching Kieran. You say Kieran has also made their stop. They're trying to get the temperature into those hards, but Franklin's already there. He's right behind him now. It's 3/10 between the two. DRS is open, heading down the penultimate straight to the final corner. He's not going to get it done, or is he? He's going to be peeking down the inside. He's not going to go for it. Final corner.
He's going to back off for the DRS,
He's going to go for the second zone.
Yes, I think that's the key. Now, I did pick Karen. I did vote for Karen to win this race, so come on, Karen, don't let me down. We'll see. Alex and Will have swapped positions, and here we go. Luke,
and just like that,
gets the tuck in front there, no problemo. But Kieran once again will have that DRS a little bit later on. Now E2 has to box. He's still out there on the same tyres he started with. He can go a little bit deeper in this race, of course, on those hard tyres. When he's got by box, that's 20 seconds down the road. If you look at gap to leader, that'll put him back around where P12 is or beyond.
And yeah, so the net lead is currently right back where it started with Luke Franklin, although amidst all the chaos, Kieran has bypassed the two Mercedes. They are now in net P2. All we have yet for drivers to take a stop, Noah and E2 have both yet to pit, and they're going to have to do so soon, because I believe they are also on the medium compounds.
And Noah's at about 60s in the front. Fronts take all the punishment around here because of that heavy braking, so about 60, yeah. At some point, we'll keep an eye on Noah's lap times. 32's not bad. 32 flat last lap. So, yep, you got pace in the tyres. Continue it. Keep an eye on that Ferrari driver as well, too, of Emor, because he's got the fastest lap and he is flying. Loving these tyres and about to catch the back of Jasper.
Oh, here we go. He's trying to chase him down. He's got the DRS now and trying to make that surge back to the top of the field, although they are on medium. So question is, are they going to take the pace deficit through the latter laps and run these to the end of the race? I think so. They've got a certain pace advantage. E2's in the pits.
I think so. He's about 43% on the fronts on that Ferrari. He may have gambled a little bit too early. No, if you're going to be able to take them to the end. We're 14 of 25. That's really risking it for the biscuit, like they say.
I thought they pitted a lot later than they did. I thought they were relatively fresh, but there we go, I was wrong. And either way, though, they're going to be maximizing the mediums while they have them, and while a lot of these hard runners are still relatively cold, of course, these tyres being freshly formulated for this year, but also a lot harder to retain the heat in, as there's less rubber to the bone, as one would say. So here we go, Amir chasing down. It's down to quarter of a second here, trying to use the strengths of that Ferrari.
He's also nursing that damage, remember, the front wing. So he's down on pace, even though he wouldn't say it because he has the fastest lap. Actually, Will is the fastest lap. But yeah, you wouldn't think it. The Ferrari man is on an absolutely mission here. But is he going to burn too much of that rubber? And will that pay later on? Kieran still can't find a way past Luke for the P1 position. And I'm sure Kieran is getting sick at looking at the rear bumper, or rear wing, of course, of the other car. Kieran's going to make a move now. He's absolutely going to make a move. The AlphaTauri, no, tucks in behind. But there it is. Final corner. He's 27, believe it. And can he make a run now?
He's waiting for that second DRS detection zone as we get a local yellow in Sector 1. Looks like someone slowed down there, but he's got the DRS. He's going to tuck in right behind, peeking around the outside. Is he going to make it work? The flap's closed. He has the inside, keeping it wheel to wheel between the two, and he's going to get the move done through the chicane.
That's how you do it, exactly. Because you've got to take the outside line because it turns into the inside line of turn 2 and turn 3. Brilliant move. Remember, Kieran's been staring down tailpipe of these cars for many laps, including the previous one, the sprint. So I think he's just waiting for his right time, right place, and that is how you do it for the Scotsman.
But here we go. So hopping in with that Ferrari, then they managed to make the move on Tanaka. So 4 seconds behind the next runner, though. And as you say, they will have to pit those mediums at some point, and it's going to have to be soon. I think we're seeing a lot of differences in setup, though. So like we said, previous races, it's all about that balance. If you can balance the tyre wear, you can have a consistent car all the way through the race. But a lot of drivers seem to have been a little front heavy with their setups, and it's showing in their tyre wear, even if it's just by a few percent.
Absolutely. Front brakes bias is obviously swing that way. So AJ and Ryan have a bit of a switcheroo again. I'm liking the way this Williams team is working. Now, I did mention it before in the sprint race. If you do defend, if you want to defend as a Williams team, well, you can burn your ERS. As soon as, say, for example, Ryan's out of the ERS, then AJ can then back off and allow Ryan to recharge his batteries. We'll see if that pans out for the strategy, but the problem is, of course, they have Bjorn and the Haas team maybe working together behind them. Fresh boots there from E2, but he's got the best boots in town, actually. 1 lap medium, should be pacey.
See how we can capitalize on that then. Okay, Hostler throwing a bit of a dummy as we head into the chicane. They're hot on the tail of Will and Jasper. So both of them really neck and neck and not giving each other an inch as we head in through into the first snakies, as we're going to dub them. It's all looking strong for this mid-pack. It's going to be a big fight. I'm seeing a big fight coming up.
The corner names. Snakey's one of them. Sneaky weaky. Can Will get it done? He's got Jasper up the road. Now, they're similar tyres. Those boots will definitely go to the end of the race. We're lapped 16 of 25. And that's the massive DRS train that's behind Jasper. Jasper's on the cusp, actually. Now Jasper's in there from the Ferrari driver of Imar, who has done a fantastic job. I have to say that Ferrari driver's done a fantastic job. But he's got to make those boots go to the end because he started in P18, running in P4. But these tyres go to the end. I don't think they will. They're already about 60% of the fronts.
Even with the strategy being played to a T, they're not going to have as good a time as they think they will. So, of course, they had to pit early from those softs
AJ
onto the mediums.
Outside of Alex. Yes, it is. So now Alex is the McLaren. He's in a sandwich of both of the Williams and the Williams. The other Williams of Ryan could be making a run here. I wouldn't go around the outside there, Ryan, and look up the road too. Will making it on Jasper. This is where the action, this is where the party is. This is SwiftX. This is only round 3.
And I don't know if I'm going to survive at this rate.
Yeah,
some of
we
the
don't
action
need
we've
Netflix
seen.
to drive to survive, my friend. We just need a bit more SwiftX.
Yeah, more drive, less survive. That's the perfect balance. Is the best drivers will find the balance of drive to survive. The question is, I don't know where this metaphor's going, but it depends how hard you want to send your car today.
Too hard into the wall, my friend, because they take no prisoners. But I tell you what, they're driving.
No survival to be had in that case.
They're driving like this is the final race of the season. It's brilliant racing. We only have one retirement. That was Jacob retiring the pit lane himself. It's a different. They definitely went to school and studied, didn't they? Those exams, and now they've turned up to this class A++s all around.
And looks like we've got some rivalries forming a little bit on track as they're looking to take each other to class while we're on the subject. So Will Casson sticking it on the tail again of Jasper Ten Hacken, but they've got to also defend from AJ, who is stuck with them in that DRS train. It's a local yellow.
Korsgaard's gone around somewhere. Yep, he's back on track, but keep an eye on that other battle of AJ putting pressure right now on Will.
You see that big attack swing, but isn't going to make anything of it. So Casson's going to hold the line. AJ is going to peek around the inside again, looking down, but with that DRS train, they're not really going to make much of it. So they're going to peek their nose in. And again, the differences in lines ultimately amounts to little, as that DRS advantage they otherwise would use has been nullified. But who has been reeled in? Emir. They are suddenly in a lot of hot water, but they could potentially use this to their advantage and hold up the queue with those ailing mediums.
I wish for everybody to survive, including us right now. I got the defibrillator ready for you, my friend. If you do get your heart rate through the roof, 15,000 beats per minute will probably be your heart rate right now. And I'm sure these drivers are definitely beating like that. So the top 3 are within the DRS range. The Ferrari driver there still trying to eke those tires out, but this is where all the action is behind that Ferrari driver. They're all in the DRS. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Count. It's not school. It's not math. It's called a motor race. Talk to Michael Massey.
The defibrillator is definitely going to be in high need, and hopefully you got the supplies. These sets of drivers, they're all pushing it. You can see the sparks flying from their cars as they're all trying to chase down and take the lead of this little battle for what's soon to be 4th place at any rate. AJ is again closing in, trying to make that gap shrink ever smaller and smaller. They're going to make him move here, so the DRS is open. Will is going to be right on the tail of Ten Hagen, so they're going to be slightly on the outside, peeking it round. Not going to go for it. It's side by side, though, between Emir and Ten Haken. He's going to go deep. He's not going to get the move done, and that's the move that they need for Emir to defend from Ten Haken, and Ten Haken to be passed by Will, but it's not going to go without a fight. It's heavy contact. There's some wheel bumping, rubbing.
You can't do 3. You can't do 3 in this corner. Oh, thankfully, I think it was who lifted off. I think it was Will lifted off. That was a very wise move.
And in all that chaos, I think and Alex Hostler got a little bit spooked by that. You saw a big kick out from the rear coming out of turn 2, and they are back down in 8th place. They've lost their place in the train. Casson had no choice but to back off and say, you can't make 3 in 1. And certainly not happening here. We are, for the most part, back at status quo. AJ, big loser from all of this, down into 9th. They've lost that advantage.
He got twirly-whirly out of that, and he backed off, which is probably a very smart move because you live to see another day. Yeah, we learnt from the first sprint race what happens if 3 into 1 corner doesn't work. Somebody was a little bit clever on that one. Backed off. Alex right now under massive pressure there from AJ. We've all this pressure. This is the battle. This is what the key to be looking at right now. And I'll tell you what, I'm sweating. The heat here in Saudi Arabia is exhaustingly hot.
Oh, absolutely melting here. But I think that could be some of the racing at play, making us feel a little bit hot and sweaty. As there's a spin! Jasper Tanakan's round!
Oh, there's contact as well too, I think.
His
Alex
contact, he's sideways on the track. There's traffic incoming. It's a big
AJ
spin.
Also around it. Bjorn, maybe. Bjorn's going to hold this defensive move for the Haas.
But Hardwick's also out in the midst of all of this chaos.
There's into the fence as well. That's got to be a yellow. Is it going to be a safety car? No, just a local caution. Ema's in the, I figured the Ferrari driver had to go on the pit lane. He's tied. Cook, there's 71%. He's probably praying for a safety car right now. Did not come out for the Ferrari driver, unfortunately. And he will drop out of the top 10 for now. But we still green flag.
We are still green flag. We are still good to go. So just amidst all of that chaos, not really sure what happened there, but say Tanakan really has got some ground to make up from this point. And say Hardwick into the wall, but just being off track, so the stewards did not deem it safety car worthy, rather local yellow, and keeping the race running. I say it was just off the track limits.
Meanwhile, Kieran still holding off both the Lukes. That battle's been continuing for a long time. They're just settling in at the moment. I think they're going to be waiting. The strategy play, of course, charging your batteries, making the right time to make the right maneuver. AJ trying to put a bit of pressure there on Bjorn in P5. So once again, those votes out there. If you said he's going to finish inside the top 10, 80% of you said yes. At the moment, looking good. However, we still have 5 laps. So this level of excitement and entertainment, anything can happen.
It's all to play for here. And say Kieran has managed to get a little bit of a breakaway on the drivers behind them, but you can see they burnt all of their battery in doing so. They're going to have to conserve and be a little gentler with that ERS and forfeit a little bit of that gap they've made. Track position is key.
AJ's definitely going to make a run on Bjorn, but Bjorn's going to try and make a run on Will. They are really, really close. You could not even slice this with butter. Remember, a Formula 1 car travels a football pitch in 1 second. So just think how close they are right now. Within 1/10.
Yeah, not giving any wiggle room or breath to spare. These things ridiculously fast, ridiculously grippy, can drive upside down in a tunnel purely under its own downforce if you try hard enough. And
I have. And yeah, to Michael Schumacher, I believe he did that. Unless that was... Anyway, back to the racing action course. Hopefully not driving upside down. Well, it is upside down in Australia. But in this part of the woods at the moment, north of the equator, Peter gets a time penalty. That will come into play a little bit later on, but at the moment, look at the top 8. No time penalties. Noah's going to be nursing that one, but Noah's 5 seconds to change down the road. The local yellow for a car that's just probably gone a little bit slow. Luke now, and the other Luke, of course, in P3 is out of the DRS range, so it's up to the other Luke, Franklin, if he wants to try to beat Karen to win this race soon, because you are getting down to the bottom of the hour.
Yes, we've got just a few laps left to go. We say amidst all of this action, we've completely missed out the fact that we currently have just under 3 or 4 laps to go. So we're into lap 22 now. Drivers really pushing their limits here and seeing, I think in the case of Luke Franklin, they've had such a strong performance. You can see they've reeled them in within half a second now. I think this is do or die time. They know that full well, and so do we. They're going to try and claw it back now. They've got just over half of their battery. They don't know that Kieran is running on fumes by comparison. You can see that battery recharge light flashing there. Maybe a little bit of lift and coast as well, packing it light. And this is going to ultimately be their undoing if they're not careful.
Kieran's got it. Yeah, exactly. He's the prey, and the predator, of course, is Luke down the road. Well, we know whether or not they paid attention at school, my friend. That's going to be the key, isn't it? Please listen to your teachers in class, because this is where it's going to come down to crunch time. The Luke, unfortunately, is out of that DRS range. I don't think he's going to be a part of this 1 or 2 party. Who wants the top step? It's not champ, but it's still going to taste sweet, and it's certainly going to cool you down if you get that top step of the podium. Who wants it? That's the key. Does Luke want it? How bad? can he size it up? What's his strategy? Can Kieran maintain that battery that's just completely running out right now for the AlphaTauri because he's trying to defend like mad. He's trying to make sure he can get whatever advantage he can to break that DRS because he doesn't have it. Luke has it. Luke has the 17 kilometers an hour. That's the tactic game you play here in Formula One.
There's those mind games as well, not to mention, because having that driver behind you, if you see them closing in further and further into your peripheral, so you've got those side mirrors, you can full well see the drivers behind with them. And if you see that car coming closer and closer, that's pressure, and enough pressure is enough for even the steeliest of drivers to make a mistake. As you see AJ getting a little bit of a penalty, but most of the drivers around the top end keeping it clean, but AJ looks like they pushed it a little too hard on those track limits.
AJ is always like that, pushes it hard. Emo, of course, gets the fastest lap there in the Ferrari with the fresh boots. Still nursing that damage, believe it or not, but he's certainly quick driving. Unfortunately, that strategy did not pay off for that Ferrari this time around. Well, when's the last time we had a strategy from Ferrari not paying off? But anyway, won't focus on that. We'll focus on this race, of course. We still have the DRS train behind Will. That's Bjorn, AJ, Alex. AJ now going to drop a couple of places with that penalty. Alex, E2 is doing a good job, those mediums. But the battle up front, that's the key. It's remaining. Ken Kieran, that I voted for the driver of the day, and I'm not sure if anybody else voted. I think about 26% of you voted for Kieran. We'll see how many you voted for Luke Franklin. Because Luke is now sizing him up. He's been spotting it. And I have to say, you know, Kieran's been the one that's usually following the cars in the sprint race. Now he's the one out in front. So it's a different level of pressure.
Definitely a different level of pressure. We're just going to hop behind, though, as we see an overtake between AJ and Bjorn. Bjorn's going to hold the inside. Those two are going to go wheel to wheel, heading through the final corner. As I say, AJ is going to make the move, get ahead. Bjorn's immediately going to go to the counter-attack with the DRS. They're both recharging, but he's got that extra 20 kilometers an hour. He's going to throw it down the inside, keeping him wheel to wheel.
AJ got it, but
AJ just about gets it. So it looks like a little bit of a swerve from Bjorn there, maybe trying to avoid contact, save the car.
His teammate also lost a couple of places there. Lost a place to Jasper, I believe, while all that action was happening. So AJ, remember, has nursed that penalty, so he's just got to get up the road as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, it's not enough time on a penultimate lap. Oh, what's going to happen? Can Kieran hold off Luke to win his first race of the season? That will be the key. The Scotsman wants it. Talk to David Coulthard. He's won a couple of races there, Kieran. Is he your mentor? Is he your manager? Or can Luke in the Aston Martin pull off a James Mott Bond maneuver and 007 his way to the top? There it is. This is my first pun of the day.
There we go. But we got to say, he's 50% battery still. He's reserved all his resources. He knows now that this is do or die. He's been watching carefully the amount of time that Kieran has been running that recharge light. He knows now that Kieran is on their last legs, and this is the time to put it all in. It's full guns, full beans, heading down the start-finish straight. So DRS is open. They're on the chase. They're on the hunt now.
And with traffic maybe coming to play, but it's the last lap. Look at that. Kieran's light. That's the blinking light of death. It means you have no battery. Luke has, I'd have to say, plenty of battery, or at least enough to make an overtake. Oh, Kieran must be sweating it out. It's hot here in Saudi Arabia. It's absolutely hot up into the casting box. We don't have an air conditioner up here, Ben. But I'll tell you what, we don't need one, mate, because these cars are breezing past us at 300 kilometers per hour, and that's all the cooling we need. What is Kieran going to do? What can Luke do? It's a race win up for grabs. The final lap of this race, of race 3. Who wants it?
We'll see who wants it more. It's a battle of pride now. It's like pushing absolutely everything. That flashing light still coming from Kieran. He's putting everything he can into that battery, trying to save as much as he can for those double DRSs. But Luke is going to take his chance. He's fighting ahead, but looks like there's an accident ahead. What's going on? Liam has gone off track. What's happened? Oh, and he's
It's a collision.
He's
killed Luke.
Luke is out of the race.
Oh no, Kieran's going to win this race, but I'm sure he didn't want to win this race like that. Luke is out. Luke, as unfortunately, was a victim of a car parked in the middle. Oh, this is even more exciting, isn't it, than the 2021 race season?
And an almost cruel twist of fate.
Kieran's going to get it done. The Scotsman, I'm sure he's going to be loving this one, but he wanted to battle it to the line. What just happened? The other Luke will get the P2.
What
we'll
a
have Will
twist.
around out 10 seconds and change down the road, believe it or not. And the other, well, there it is. So the other Aston Martin will get to the, well, yes, the Aston Martin will get the P3. But, oh no, Luke was the other Aston Martin that could have got that P2. It's not his fault,
no.
of course. Just nowhere to go. Car in the middle of a track, aka accident. Game over.
Oh, it's a cruel twist of fate. Nature has its way. And just when we think it's heating up, I know that Kieran is going to breathe a sigh of relief, but he knows. And it's always a pride thing for drivers. You want to settle it on the track rather than the steward's room. And this rings true here. He would have loved to see that battle to the end, even if he doesn't want to admit it. And that's is going to ring a victory nonetheless. But how proud do you think he's going to be, considering how down the wire it could have been?
I think he'd still be. I think he may have still held off, but I'm sure he would have loved to hold him off there for that final lap. But obviously you got to feel gutted for Luke. But then again, Luke, at the end of the day, you know, nothing he could do. It was a car parked in the middle of the road. You were going at 300 kilometers an hour. It was inevitable. But hats off to Luke. You know, he drove fantastic. He got a podium. That was guaranteed for him if there wasn't a car on track. So it was either a P1 or a P2. So and at the end of the day, that's what it is. But Karen, my pick to win the race, done it, my friend. You have done it. Congratulations. You are man on the top step for round 3 here in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like internally, if this was Twitch, there'll be a few not like this is popping up. But either way, that is a quite an exciting showing. So I think Saudi Arabia has been probably our most exhilarating race so far. Despite some cynicism, we've seen some absolute insanity on the track up until today. We had a craziness in the sprint, and it rings true for the race. But as we head through to the podium, say Kieran Stewart,
yeah, Kieran,
a commanding win.
Replace that bottle of wine with some fine Scottish scotch. That's what you need to do. The AlphaTauri has set the fashion statement here. Round 3 on the top step, getting it done. Karen, congratulations. Your first race win. And you had to earn it, and you definitely did.
And you can see there's the other drivers celebrating. That'll be Luke Tamrinka and Will Casson, as they not to be outdone by their teammates, as say both of them coming from adversity, say picking up where their teammates left off and still scoring some valuable podiums for their driving teams respectively. But there you go, as say with a 38-minute race time, that is Kieran Stewart winning the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Luke Tambrinka in second place, holding strong in that Mercedes. Will Casson in the Aston Martin with a commanding P3 and making it back up from seemingly strong adversity. Beyond a boat in the Haas and Acosta coming P4, P5, E2 in P6, with AJ dropping down to P7 thanks to those time penalties, along with other drivers like Noel Corpi, Emir and Ryan, with Jasper Ten Hagen actually doing well to recover despite their incident. But I think I need a minute. I think I need a minute after that. Like that last lap is just, you hit the nail on the head earlier.
Yeah, the hot tub bods are even excited at the moment. They're spamming the channel 2 for nails. So, of course, you just ignore that, everybody. We're all used to that. I tell you what, the hot tub bots are spamming. That means this is definitely a heated up race. Big shout out, of course, to Will. 16th place up into 3rd. A lot of gainers here. Alex, 11th to 5th. 15th to 6th is E2. AJ still hooking in there from 10th to 7th to take that one. Alpine driver of Noah, 19th to 8th. Good points there. Jasper, she had a good recovery to get P9. In Emor, of course, after all that strategy with the Ferrari driver, one of the quickest drivers on the track, but got 18th to 10th. Is right up there as well. That's your top 10. So I think we'll get some interviews in a minute.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the drivers are feeling about what happened there. So, of course, we've got some big winners, some big losers, and some big upsets that we'll, of course, need to touch on. We'll need to cover. But I just want to get your take on it, Dean, is that did you expect some of the craziness that we saw on track day? We saw a lot of people getting close to spins, saw a couple of people with big spins, and some big consequences.
This is an absolutely amazing race. Now, I haven't been to too many of these here in Saudi Arabia, but it's brilliant. Wheel-to-wheel racing we only had a couple of retirements, remember? And a lot of those retirements were just the drivers in the pit lane because they had too much damage. So wheel-to-wheel action was amazing. This is round 3. I mean, compared to the sprint race we had, where it was a little bit more crazier, this is just brilliant. Obviously, throw the tire strategy in there. Most of the drivers started on the mediums. They went to the hards. Different strategy for the Ferrari driver with the 3 stops, still finishing in the top 10 with the pace. In fact, Frederick got their fastest lap, but he's in P14, so I won't get paid anything for that. But amazing. Hope you guys absolutely loved it, as I did.
Yeah, and to look on the technical side, look on the technical side a little bit, we say differences in setups played a part as well, especially in the tire department, not to mention the whole wheel versus controller debate, but particularly the car setups. We saw a lot of people running a lot more aggressively on the fronts, and I think that's also what contributed to a few people also getting the rear out, where they just had a bit of an imbalance in how their car was configured, burning the fronts. And of course, it doesn't matter how long the lives of your tires are, if you're burning the fronts too hard or the rears too hard, you're going to have to come in a lot earlier compared to a setup that's a lot more balanced. So definitely some wins and losses purely on setup today. Definitely in the tire department.
Yeah, obviously we're going to try to chat to the top 3 of Karen, of course, Luke and Will. Interesting to note, because Will, remember, he started all the way at the back in P16. Somehow found a magical way of pulling a Houdini out there and getting himself on a podium. So his strategy was top speed was around 330 k's per hour. Sorry, I am in the metric system. You can convert that one back, but yeah, maybe that top speed was the key to his success. We'll find out for sure. But to you guys out there in the chat, let us know, how excited were you about this race? And do we want to go to a round 4? I believe we should definitely be going to a round 4 next week.
Oh boy, round 4's got a tough act to follow. I do have to say that. To the point where I sort of almost forgotten. Set, isn't it, mate?
The lights are out.
Yeah, 100%. But
we'll let them have a bit of a breather for a second. They are in the cool down room. Can we shove a microphone in that cool down room and listen? Of course, no, we don't.
A little bit of the murmurings, but. I think it is that one of the mantras that I hear around the paddock from time to time is the best race is a quiet race, in the sense that you don't have any drama. In a way, you want to slip by the TV crew because that means that you're not having any fuss, you're not having any issues, you're just cleanly passing through the field. And I think Will managed to get that. Of course, they had that big fight at the front, the front end of the grid, but before that, they just seemingly disappeared and reappeared back up at the top 10 without any drama. So I think they just capitalized and put a strategy to perfection.
We'll have to call him Will Stealth Carson from now on, aren't we? He's a stealth man. He's a ninja, ready to strike and pounce anytime he wants. Yeah, it wasn't up the front, of course. Karen couldn't run away with this one, and we saw that accident, of course. Well, that was a little bit of a mistake from Jesper, but Jesper still managed to finish. Okay, let's get these gladiators in here from the cool down room. I'm sure some of them are laying on the floor right now.
Yeah, but let's have a little bit of a talk to him then. So, Karen Stewart, of course, winning the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So first off, congratulations. That was a Herculean drive. It has to be said. You were fighting tooth and nail till nearly the end. But how are you feeling?
I got a heart attack when that guy spun. I seen a yellow flag.
With that, then I think we should open.
Yeah.
You're okay, right? Obviously, the medics have got you sorted out there.
No, I seen a yellow flag and I didn't know where it was. And then obviously the corner's blind, and if his front wing was like an inch closer to the wall, I'd have been dead.
Karen, how did you manage to survive if your battery just completely drained towards the end? You were just timing everything right with your ERS management?
I was gaining like 4/10 in the first sector. I think I had higher wings than everyone else, so not by much.
That was the key to your success then?
Yeah.
You feel?
I think it was first sector I was gaining like 4/10 on him. And then
Karen, you don't sound like you're too excited. I know it's only rosewater, mate. There's no champagne, of course, on the step. It's an alcohol-free country, so you can't be blaming it on the scotch.
I need a shower.
Scotsman bloody All right, so Penny, you started in P4. So where were your gains made during this race?
I got P3 off the start, like the chicane, and then what happened?
And you were chasing. That's right. You were chasing everybody down because it was like the sprint race all over again, wasn't it? Just
Yeah,
looking at the rear wing of another car all the time, trying to
Yeah,
apply pressure.
I was stuck behind the mark, and then I seen the Aston Martin was getting ahead of him, like pulling out the DRS. So that's when I was going to overtake. But then they both pitted, so I stayed out an extra lap and came out with like second gap. But obviously the cold tires then made him catch up. But I went from
You were
P3
so
to P1 in the pit stops.
You were so cool, calm, and collective, my friend. Is DC giving you some tips there?
I've never spoke to him actually.
I thought he was your manager. But Karen, get excited, my friend. This is your first race win. You did it. Got it done.
Yeah, I mean it was good for. I missed last week's race, so I guess for Amir to finish.
I voted
P10.
for you, my friend. I voted for you. I wish I would have or put my channel points down, but yeah, I got it.
Amir finished P10. Obviously, in the sprint race, I got P4, which is 4 points, I think.
Points are points. Any words you'd like to say to your fans out there before we'll head off and let you go back and celebrate with the team?
I don't have any fans.
Yeah, I'm a fan. Can you sign this, by the way, too, so I can sell it on eBay for
Buy us in the commentary box. Not having that.
Yeah. Oh, all right.
No,
Anyway, yeah, Ben. Yep, go ahead, Kieran.
But brilliant performance, honestly. If I can just interject, sorry, mate. But brilliant performance out there today. And as you say, you don't have any words, but we'll let you go. We'll let you recover. I'm sure your heart's still in your mouth a little bit from that last lap incident. As you say, just missing them by a hair's breadth, it looked like, from the cam.
Sorry to cut you off. He does have a fan. Broad Genie.
Oh.
There you go, Karen. You got a fan.
I thought you meant my fan because I just turned it on.
No, you got a fan. You have a fan.
You've made it. He's made it.
It starts with one, my friend, and they grow. They're like rabbits. They keep breeding. So your fans will keep breeding. Keep it up, Karen. Good job.
Thank you.
And there we go. That is a race winner. I think it's fair to say that like he's got a little bit of a shock from that last lap incident, and I don't blame him because it is literally a case of the
defibrillator I was shocking you with to keep your heart going.
Yeah, because they borrowed my defibrillator. But I think, like you said, if the front wing was, to say, just a little bit further out, it would have been a goner. As it was a hair's breadth. It was a split-second decision that managed to avoid, to say, a race ender for both of them potentially. But speaking
I forgot to ask whether they had a front wing because a lot of drivers were missing up those end plates. But yes, we need to pull in P2, I believe, right now. The Dutchman.
Yep, and say speaking of P2 here, so we have Tamarinka, say P2 in the Saudi Grand Prix. Never mind, he's disappeared again.
He's signing autographs down there in the stadium. I can see him. Maybe we can pull in Will while we're waiting, because Will is there's a will and there's a want and there's a done. Yeah,
of course we need to talk about him because one of the biggest comeback challenges of the race. But here we go, Will Carson, P3 in the race day. How are you feeling, mate?
Very good, thank you. Bit of a surprise coming from P16, and considering I finished last in the last two races, it's a nice change of scenery.
Okay, Will. Okay, aka James Bond from now on. Will 007 in the Aston Martin. That. What are the tricks you had in your car to pull that off? Because that's amazing, my friend. P16 to P3.
Yeah, it was okay. Went for a big undercut and then completely bottled the pit entry and it like reset me. So I lost time there. I was quite lucky because the first lap there was a crash, which put me up to P10. And then other than that, just I had quite a high downforce setup, so it really helped me get out of people's DRS in the first sector or catch up. So yeah, just a all-round good race, really.
Absolutely for you. Ben, did you hear that again? High downforce. That sounds like that was a key around here in Jeddah.
I'm starting to see a bit of a pattern, but yeah, I think you said it best to say it's good to have that change scenery. Of course, it's like you're a proven driver. I've seen you and how you perform on your day. So do you think this is going to be the start of the momentum, say return to form?
I'd like to think so. First race was just a disaster. Second race, I spun, but then lost my wing, unfortunately, and then it was just I was never going to recover. So I was just trying to keep out the walls today, and it seemed to really help. So hopefully this is a turn of form.
We're going to have to check your 007 machine at the moment, the Aston Martin, mate, because you have some secrets there.
Cheers.
You got to be very impressed. That is one of the best drives I've ever seen from P16 and P3 with all the racing. Remember, there was only a few DNFs, and that most of them were in the pit lane. Your strategy, so you elected to undercut. So you boxed on lap 9 with the mediums that you started, and you said you even kerfubbled the pit lane entrance, as you said. And then
so
leave it at the end.
Yeah, because I can't remember who I was stuck behind. I was in basically a train of cars, and it was the 2 Williams in front of me, and they were just trying to basically catch up to the group ahead, but also make sure we stay behind. So I went for the undercut. Ended up behind most of that group still anyway. But then with the warmer tyres, just managed to sort of cut my way through a bit for the first few laps, and then just sort of cemented my position and kept going from there really.
Money Penny is waiting for you, my friend. She is
Thank
waiting
you, boys.
for you. Well done, Will.
Cheers,
the
boys.
Aston Martin driver, of course, driving for a British team in a British flag. That's Will. P3, 16th place on the grid up into P3. So, well done. Hey, championships there. Points.
Well, hopefully we can still do it.
I'd say you've got it in you. Say P16 to P3. That's 13 up. That's a brilliant performance as a Herculean drive, and hopefully a sign for things to come. But there we go. That is Will Casson of the podium there. And yeah, well, I don't know, man. I don't even know how to describe how that race went. Of course, we would like to
the
talk
Flying Dutchman
to...
might have disappeared at the moment from the Mercedes, of course, that finished in P2, which is Luke Tenbrinkle. Get his name correctly. Apologise if I get it. I'm a Biggles butcher anyway.
Yeah,
you guys
Biggles
out
the
there-
name butcher. But yeah, No Time to Spin coming to cinemas near you. Either way, it's looking hot, it's looking spicy, but round 4 looking ahead of us now. We've got a tough act to follow, but we are heading to the streets of Azerbaijan. What's your experience with Baku, with the Baku
Going
street
for
circuit?
another high-speed track, longest straight in the Formula 1 calendar. You can get speeds of in excess of 340 km/h, I believe. Now they touched 330 around here, so 340s are possible in Baku. Wow, turn 1, amazing! I can't wait. This is like a very similar track, I'd have to say, to Saudi Arabia. We'll have to take a break, of course, before we go to Hungary. We need a break if we go to Hungary. Ben, yeah, mate. Never ceases to amaze me how fantastic the drivers are here at SwiftX.
Yeah, it's really just an insane level of driving talent. But we're going to quickly hop back because we have a surprise guest who we could potentially talk to. As one driver that we could potentially talk to.
It's Liam. Now, just to let everybody know out there in the audience in the stadiums, Liam is one of the men that put on this fantastic productions here at the Swift Motorsports. Liam, g'day. How are you? You're on the stage right now. What was your race?
Yeah, not great. Not great. 0 words, to put it simply.
Get your helmet on. You listed your helmet up. I can hear you.
Yeah. I started the race. Was going good into turn 1. Come out of turn 2, and I believe there was front left to rear right contact, and that spun my teammate around, and I got collected with that. So I had wing damage, had to pit, but my team did not change my wing, so I had to pit again, which put me 40 seconds back.
You are a Ferrari-powered car. I was surprised that the Ferrari team was going to do that to you in the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah. And then it was all going swimmingly. Nothing really happened. It was a very dry race because I'm by myself, 40 seconds behind anyone else. And the last lap, or second to last lap for me, I spun and tried to find a gap. I found the gap, and I had definitely had enough room. I knew I had enough room. And I was around facing the right way, and as I started to move off, I'm holding my wheel fully to the left, and traction was terrible because my tyres were cooked. It moved me over to the right, and as a result, Luke went in the back of me. It's really unfortunate, and I feel absolutely terrible, to be honest, because he was literally on for P1.
It happened. Yeah, that's right. That was the accident. Just to remind everybody at the end. Liam had spun, of course, and unfortunately, we have forgotten, obviously, about the other Aston Martin driver of Luke, who unfortunately had nowhere to go but the side. But it's good that you're okay, of course. Luke's okay. Got the medical checks. But hey, it's a racing incident, right? I mean, you're not deliberately trying to park that car in the middle of the road to destroy people's races, of course. Absolutely not. But your race in general, and once again, the key of the racing was the front wing. What was your setup?
I was running a 1510 setup.
So a little bit more, because the front wing apparently
a little bit less than everyone else.
Everybody, that was the key, I think, to the setup.
You know, say the higher downforce runners usually predicated around the getting away from DRS, but it's interesting you went for a 1510, and so, like you say, a little bit less than everyone else, but still a bit of a front bias. Do you think the front bias is what led to the spin potentially, or at least it's a little bit of shakiness around the rear?
No, it was what led to the spin. So the curb through, I believe it's turn 23, 24, that obviously the turn that I was spun out. I'd been pushing for the past 3 laps because I had my teammate behind. I had a 3-second time penalty, so I wanted to try and keep him at that 3 seconds. And
your tires, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, so going through that turn, I normally try and keep my right wheel on the curb, but I just pushed it too hard and ended up beaching myself on the curb, and that's what spun me.
Lap 23, I believe it was, because I'm just looking at telemetry right now. You set your fastest Sector 1 and Sector 2 time on lap 23. That was 57% wear on those hard tires, and I guess that was it, right? Risking it for a bit too much.
Yeah, exactly. I just pushed too hard. I haven't really got any words. I feel really bad.
But with Leon, we love you. All right, we love you. You're the boss man. Okay, so of course, because you got our boarding passes to head back to the next race. But overall, mate, would you like to shout out to everybody in the league that you are part of putting this fantastic Swift Racing League on?
Yeah, it's been a collective thing. It's not been any single people, from commentators to the admins to the owner to the moderators to the drivers. And the few engineers we have, it brings it together. The graphics design team, the social media team, everything. It's amazing, and I'm really proud of where it's come from, and easily the highest produced league currently.
It's the best in the planet, my friend. Yes, all because of, once again, if you guys want to be a part of this fantastic party, just hit all the buttons there. We're on all the social media networks. We're here. Hit the thumbs up if you look. Because I certainly did, and all the Discord links are there. Sign up if you want to be racing. Of course, we already started the season off, but there's always racing here at Swift Motor Racing League. And if you want advice, anything from everybody, they're very happy to help you. Digital Motorsports, of course, is one of our sponsors, so have a shout out, as well as the other sponsors. Ben, over to you. Let's wrap it up.
But yeah, I mean, just before we let you go, Liam, you still put on a good performance today. Of course, it happens. Everyone has their days, but like you said, you got bungled a bit on the strategy. The team didn't change your front wing, and it was a little bit of a runaway train. But you still made the most of it. You still put on the best, and at the end of the day, you along with the team are what makes these races possible. So before we let you go, just thank you.
Thank you very much.
Big hats off. Thank you very much. And we got to remember as well, don't we, Ben, that he is also trying to manage a lot of the stuff as well. He's not just a driver. He's also like a team engineer. He's a league engineer and all that jazz. So
I would not be surprised if he had a third pedal for operating a laptop back at HQ. I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
We have that kind of ingenuity. We've seen it before.
Yeah, in the past as well, too. He's had to sacrifice qualifying to try to maintain that everybody gets on the grid at the right time at the right place. So, the sacrifices that a man makes, and hopefully, his race performance will definitely come in the end at some point during the season.
Definitely. Well, let's say he's got the MFD on his steering wheel, so he's managed to puts in some friendly words to the officials. They let him get a copy of Linux on there, and the rest of the graphics have been smooth sailing. But with that all being said, let's say, of course, round 4 in Azerbaijan. Tough act to follow, some tough racing we saw today, some big flashpoints, which I'm sure you'll be hearing about all over our social medias. But as far as we go, we're going to go recover, and we're going to go pack our bags and probably contemplate what just happened a little bit, because I'm still not processing it for the life of me.
I'll take you to a nice restaurant. I'll take everybody to a nice restaurant here in Saudi Arabia, of course. Some beautiful food. If you haven't had any, there is some fantastic restaurants around here. And, yep, that's it. Lay down time.
and breathe. But we hope that everyone has enjoyed the racing so far. Of course, we do have, let's say, one more round next week before we have a short break, so you will definitely not want to miss the final round of Split 1. So keep here on SwiftX, but from me and Dean in the commentary box, it's bye for now.